After major flops like Dark Phoenix, tensions are brewing between 20th Century Fox and its new corporate parent, Disney. Now, Brent, Bob Iger, he actually spoke very publicly about this on an earnings call.
Bob Iger basically delivered a public spanking to the staff at 20th Century Fox. The Disney earnings were disappointing, and he blamed Fox's film performance for a really disheartening, dispiriting financial performance. One producer I talked to said he'd never seen a public hanging like that before, so I think people were feeling pretty terrible.
Now, I want to talk about Dark Phoenix. How much money did the studio lose over that flop?
Basically, Fox's film unit resulted in a write-down of about $170 million, and most of that is attributable to Dark Phoenix and its abysmal financial performance.
Wow. When Dark Phoenix moved over to Disney after they bought 20th Century Fox, there was basically no hope for it. Your sources said that the studio did little, if any, marketing.
Well, the movie was bad, so I mean, we have to sort of acknowledge that.
To deal with what you're working with, yeah.
But there were a whole bunch of problems. I mean, there were layoffs, and a lot of the marketing team that had been working on Dark Phoenix was let go, and then it seems as though the creative team behind Dark Phoenix felt that Disney never really got behind it, that they didn't market it as aggressively, they didn't spend as much. They had a premiere in Los Angeles that was sort of done on the cheap, so I think people came away from the experience feeling very personally offended by the way that the film was treated.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other flops that really stuck out to Bob Iger that kind of were a problem financially?
Well, there were smaller movies like Stuber and Tolkien, a Fox Searchlight film. Mm-hmm. But I think what's more worrisome for the Fox group is that Disney doesn't have a lot of confidence in what's coming either. You know, they've moved a whole bunch of things around. They've pushed stuff way farther back on the release calendar. And the only film that they really seem enthusiastic about is a film called Ford versus Ferrari that they think could be a real awards contender. But they sort of have indicated that they think that the film division was not being run terribly well, and they've canceled, basically torching, $50 million worth of development. Disney is like knocking the cover off the ball at the box office, so they're having $1 billion hit. Yeah, after another. They have, Aladdin does well, Toy Story 4 does well, Avengers breaks Avatar's record. And then if you're some of the Fox staff that's left over, you're sitting there in that Monday morning meeting, you must be feeling so small as they're patting each other on the back. After Bohemian Rhapsody, it's been one flop after another. And I think that Disney's appetite for Fox has diminished significantly after each film failure. So they need a hit, and they need it fast.
Right. Now, of course, one of the major properties that Disney was excited about when they did acquire Fox was Avatar. And they also just recently announced that Disney Plus, Disney's upcoming streaming service, will take some of these classic nostalgic films like Home Alone and put it on their streaming service. So it seems like they're taking the properties that they want.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. I mean, what a,
you're
sort
giving
of
me
sad
like a bleak
statement.
look.
But what a sad statement that, some of the biggest franchises in Fox's history, things like Home Alone, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, they're just being sort of reconstituted for streaming. I mean, it's not really a big endorsement in Fox's future. And yes, Disney is legitimately excited about Avatar, but that's even being done at a very high level. I mean, Bob Iger is involved in that. That's a theme park, extravaganza. There's a lot of resources and time and treasure being sort of devoted to that.
Let's talk about something like Deadpool.
Well, I think what they're trying to grapple with right now, and there's a lot of debate going on at the studio, is just sort of how does Deadpool, which Disney acknowledges this is a successful franchise, this is a franchise that's working, but how do you fit it into the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Because Deadpool is extremely R-rated. Is this a character that can cross over and hang out with Thor or Captain America in one of the regular Avengers movies? And those are PG-13, at the top
Mouse
level.
House umbrella.
Right. Exactly, and then go back to the R-rated version. So they're just kind of trying to figure out, how do you fit this character into the overall universe of superheroes and supervillains?
Another film that's coming from the same sort of genre is New Mutants. You learn from your sources that they are skeptical, but they think that it could still perform well at the box office.
I think basically what they want to do is just run, the table on these films, get through them as quickly as possible, and then let Kevin Feige come and try to rejuvenate these brands, because I think there's a sense that really he has that magic touch and he can figure out what's working. and that the X-Men film genre is just played out.
Let's talk about one last film, which is not in the superhero genre, West Side Story. Steven Spielberg is reimagining it. Ansel Elgort is starring. Is Disney excited about that film?
You've got to look at who's behind it. It's Steven Spielberg, and I think that there was some thought, well, maybe they're not going to be into this because it's a $100 million plus budget. The first film is so beloved. It won, I think, like 10, 11 Oscars. So it's unlikely that this film would repeat that. So like what's sort of being different? And I guess the answer is, according to people who've seen the screenplay, is that Tony Kushner, the writer of Angels in America, wrote the screenplay, and he sort of leans into the dehumanization of immigrants and that there's some political resonance in this sort of Trump era. But will it work? I don't know. It's Spielberg, and he has a pretty good track record.